Hey guys, this is Katie Nip. Be sure to check out my new album, Me. It's on every platform in existence, but Bandcamp is my favorite.
What up, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2. Are we on? Looks like we are. Hey, this is D-Cal, host of the E.I.H.R podcast. How you guys doing?
Here we go, a show to slowly unfold some views that's in the news that make us uncomfortable. You never heard this podcast is broadcast in contrast to popular opinion. Stop that, assuming that you knew every view that's brewing. So keep it moving. If you got any sense, then you're welcome to put two so in. Listen in, relax, chill, take a breather, and let D-Cal put y'all onto the ether.
Let's go. What's good? It's your boy D-Cal here, hosting the E.I.H.R podcast from the GNS HQ from Northern California, episode 148. Today is August 1st, 2024. How's everyone doing out there, man? I hope you're having a really good day. I hope today is the best day of the week and tomorrow's even better than that. The E.I.H.R podcast stands for the elephant in the room, where we talk about topics and discussions that you normally wouldn't be able to have with your peers, because everyone tends to think that they're right. And that's kind of the basis of today's episode. So even when you're listening to any of the episodes included today and you don't necessarily agree with what we're saying, the purpose of this whole platform is so you have a better understanding of what you're disagreeing with. You can give us a call, 916-282-9372. Once again, 916-282-9372. You can follow us on social medias. The handle is going to be the same for Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Threads. It's the E.I.H.R. E.I.H.R. So for those of you who are new to the podcast, greatly appreciate you giving us a shot, giving us a spin, giving us a listen. And to those of you who are returning, man, much appreciate the love. Welcome back. So what we do here at the E.I.H.R podcast is we do a couple of things. We start off this thing with some inspirational, motivational, and we'd like to give shout out. Okay, so what I want to do real quick is I want to give a shout out the Olympics, right? The Olympics is going on, probably the biggest event on the planet Earth, right? Give a shout out to China, man. They have the most gold medals currently. Last count I got was 11 gold, and that's crazy. That's a dominant effort, I'm not gonna lie. Like, gold, silver, bronze, they doing their thing, man. 11 of them. But I also want to give a shout out to the United States for the most medals overall, which is 31. And I believe China is second with 27, if I remember correctly. 31 overall. Now, all that means is we're kicking ass in second and third place in the Olympics. But you know what? At least we're giving it a try. At least we're giving it our best efforts. And as long as both teams win, that's all that matters, right? But yeah, 31 overall. And young Miss Simone Biles, I mean, she won gold again. Like, the most decorated gymnast in the history of the Olympics. Like, it's crazy, man. So big ups to them. So inspirational, motivational. I love doing things like this. Episode number 148. Your direction is way more important than your speed, and a lot of people need to understand that. Sometimes slow and steady wins the race. And I even put this in the caption of the social medias: is if you move slow, you can learn fast. But if you move fast, you can learn slow. So there's a lot of details and things that can get overlooked when you move at a rapid pace. And a lot of us are hesitant to do anything because we're afraid of mistakes, or we're afraid of the opinions of others who are themselves afraid to give it a shot. So as long as you make the effort, the most important step is the first one. All right, so that's crucial. We're going to get into this episode after we get a word from the sponsor. Just give me a couple seconds. This is Decal, the E.I.T.H.R podcast. Be right back.
Most t-shirts are simply cool to look at or look in. Well, so are ours. But ours also aim to send a message. They aim to put a name on obstacles that once stood in your way and aren't there anymore. Struggles that you turned into successes and crushed. You made it look easy. Shop at mile.today. Mile.today. www.mile.today. A GNS collection.
So, one of the things I want to talk about when it comes to communication, and that is, in my opinion, one of the main reasons why we have communication breakdowns in relationships. So when I say relationships, not just intimate relationships, but friendships and, communications at work and things of that nature, right? One of the main things that I've observed that people have issues with is nobody wants to hear from the other side, right? Everyone's too busy listening for their time to talk or to yell. And I noticed this is huge, especially when it comes to social media, or in general, people who don't know how to communicate. So I want you guys to kind of just take a moment and think about a time where you got into a discussion with somebody and they were speaking on something that you didn't personally necessarily agree with, or and you had a very valid point, and nobody was hearing one another. Did you notice that it was just a bunch of yelling? And a lot of people tend to believe the louder I talk, the more I overpower the conversation, that equates to me being more right. And it's a toxic trait. Most of the time, it's something that we pick up in our household. We see parents doing it. We see, it's just a form of communication, depending on where you grew up, that's just normal. It's how it is, right? The louder one is the more dominant one. And so when the other person tends to be quiet while being yelled at, it's almost like a white flag is being waved. Like they conceded to the conversation. That's not the case. In most cases, that's not the case. But if you really want to have a conversation with somebody, it takes a shit ton of emotional intelligence to know yourself, to know who you're talking to. What did Jay-Z once say in a rhyme? He says, a wise man said, never argue with fools, because from a distance people can't tell who is who. And this is really huge. I've noticed significantly more so on social media, is if and when you don't respond to somebody, the person that you're not responding to, it's viewed by them as a victory in the conversation. I remember years ago when I would just stop having conversations with people who I wasn't gaining any traction with. it was a victory lap for them because they really believe they won. And that's not the case. It's just your ignorance is not going to disturb my peace. That's just the bottom line. If you ever attempt to just hear what the other person is trying to say, and I have learned asking questions can get you more information than spewing accusation. And, for example, we're not going to get into it in this episode, but you can look at just the landscape of the political conversation with people. Whatever side of the fence you tend to be on. If you're having a conversation with someone who's on the opposing side, they're not hearing what you have to say because all they're going to do is make this lengthy post, reply, comment, or something going to be in all caps in a response, or it's going to result into name calling and personal attacks, and you get nowhere because now the conversation has shifted to personal versus professional, right? Even in relationships, bro, like you and your partner getting into a misunderstanding, it seems programmed that we just get irritated really easily and is ready for fight. We're just ready for fight. And a lot of issues with people is you have to be the smartest one in the room. And I have learned being the smartest one in the room isn't the greatest thing in the world. That's not the best thing because you don't know everything. And most of the information that you probably do know might be misinformed, might be outdated, or it just might be inaccurate, depending on where you get your sources from. So I try to be not the smartest one in the room and go where there's a room full of people who are smarter than me. And so this also kind of ties into knowing yourself, right? In many cases, a lot of people don't know who they are. They just know what society says a person should be. So there's a lot of conflicting emotion and conflicting thoughts with who you are, who you should be, who you want to be, who you're supposed to be, and who's being presented to the world. And there's a lot of internal battles that go on with that. And it's going to take time and effort for people to develop who they are. But once you find out who you are, then you have to make the decision on being proud of who that is, sticking with who that is by having your standards, having your boundaries, and not allowing anything to sway you from what you believe to be true. So learning new information can alter the image, the facade that you're trying to put up for the public, right? Bottom line is this. Most people, as I said, get into these misunderstandings and these arguments in relationships or friendships or work colleagues or whatever because everybody wants to be right. Nobody wants to be wrong. And we live in a world where if I am wrong, it's somebody else's fault why I am wrong. Nobody wants to take accountability. Nobody wants to be responsible. It takes a big person to sit back and say, my bad, I fucked up. That's on me. That's me. You right. I'm wrong. Very, very, very difficult for self-centered people who believe the world spins on their axis, right? A lot of people who tend to play victim, a lot of narcissists, a lot of manipulators, it's never their fault. One thing I learned when I was in this training program to get my own business, this multi-level marketing company, as a CEO, it's always your fault. Now, the wording has different meaning in today's world, but the overall principle was you are responsible for what is yours. If employees don't show up tomorrow, you still got to pay the bill. If something happens, you still got to take care of it. You can't sit back and say this didn't get accomplished because other people didn't do. This is yours, right? Solely you're responsible. So the way I took that was, when things go sideways in a relationship, a friendship, any type of communication, any type of partnership, the first thing I tend to do is look at me. What did I do? What could I have done differently? What was it something that I have missed? And I can honestly tell you from experience, man, with mature people that you deal with, if you take that approach, it normally diffuses any type of animosity, conflict, or aggression from the other person. Normally, not always. Excuse me, because some people, they see you being apologetic, they see you being empathetic, they see that as a weakness. And that's because they come from an environment where you have to be aggressive to survive, right? Nice is weak. Weak is food. And everybody's trying to eat. So you don't want to be the reason why someone gets fed. I get that. But it's also one of those things where you have to know, you have to read the room, right? You have to know you have to know your element, you have to know your climate, you have to know your environment. And if you know you're dealing with people that you can't have certain conversations with, the best thing to do, honestly, truly, really, is to eliminate having to be around those people if you can and if it's possible. You have to know who you can talk to. The other day, we put a post up about accepting people for who they are, but, place them where they belong. If you know you can't have logical conversations with somebody, stop trying to use logic with that person, right? If you know this person gets irritated and upset when the topic goes to here, don't go to that topic, right? It's not always easy, but it's extremely, extremely simple. Just avoid it. But again, some people just have to play the victim, man. And if you're dating somebody who is like that, you have to ask yourself, is the peace in that relationship worth your peace of mind? And again, most of the time, we tend to have these relationships or partnerships with people who we like. And I saw this video on social media not too long ago where my man says, we are entirely too old to be basing our emotional investments into people we like. He says, I like cheeseburgers, but that don't mean I need to eat cheeseburgers all the damn time knowing that they're bad for me. I like Jordans, but that doesn't mean every time I get a few $100s, I have to buy a pair of Jordans. All because I like something doesn't mean that it's good for me. Some things I like are detrimental to my well-being. So you have to know the difference between liking something and something being beneficial. We tend to like people, and then we have this expectation of what we think they will be, right? And there's another video that I saw on social media about when having conversations with folks, and this is also a big one, we tend to have these conversations with people with implied meaning. And what that translates to is you say something. However, I didn't hear what you said. I'm not paying attention to that. What I heard was what I think you meant. So therefore, I'm responding to what I think you meant to say when you said that. And depending on who the person is, depending on their maturity, depending on their way of thinking, depending on how they're set up, they're either A, going to hear your explanation of no, this is what I said and this is what I was meaning, or you're in a hell of a knockdown, drag out battle verbally with this person, because now you have to explain what you meant versus what they think you meant. And sometimes, depending on the situations and the circumstances and the history that you have with that individual or those individuals, it's a waste of time, right? How many of us have dated somebody who is extremely insecure and they swear you're doing something behind their back? So when you laugh at somebody's joke, when you respond to a text message, when you're always on your cell phone, even though you're cuddling up next to them, when you are doing something that their mind tells them you're doing something different. If you notice, it doesn't really matter what the hell you tell them. It's almost irrelevant, because in their brain's telling them what you meant to do. Their brain is telling them what you're doing that's not in front of them. Yeah, that shit comes from trauma. Yeah, it comes from bad experiences. But like I said, you have to know yourself. If that's somebody that you can't rock with, man, don't be with them because they're fine. Because that's going to jade you. That's going to tarnish you. That's going to ruin you. If that relationship doesn't make it, and most of them do not make it, it's going to build a resentment. And with that resentment, you're going to have it towards your partner and or the next person. And you're going to have a resentment towards yourself for allowing yourself to go through that. Move slow, learn fast. Move fast, learn slow. When it comes to communication, you have to know who you're talking to, right? Now, we said earlier, some people want to be the smartest one in the room. The problem with that is there's no room for any other ideas. There's no room for any other answer. There's no room for any other suggestions but that particular individual. You can't really do much with a person like that because they know everything. Even if they assume the answer is going to go off their gut instinct, their tuition, or their instinct, or vibe, or feel, or something. And some people are so bad at it, they wish shit into existence and then sit back and say, see, I knew it. It's like, no, you brought that into existence. It didn't exist. You cornered somebody with your negativity and your paranoia, for lack of a better term, that you put them on the path to making it happen. It's like people who cheat. I'm not justifying it, but it's like people who cheat. It's anytime someone called, you thought it was somebody I had on the side. Anytime someone paid me attention, whether they looked at me, they smiled at me, they greeted me, they opened the door for me, you thought they were flirting. Anytime I responded back to somebody, you thought I was sneaky leaking. Anytime someone reacts to, you question who they are. No matter what my response is to these accusations, these questions, or whatever things you're charging me with, you in your imagination have already made the decision that I was guilty. You just needed to find the evidence. There's nothing you can do. And I have learned from my past, the moment you stop proving yourself, it fuels the fire for them. You're even more guilty. Because if you didn't do it, you would have kept doing it. There's a lot of pain in that person. There's a lot of unhealed trauma in that person. But sticking with that individual is not going to do shit but make it hard for you to recover yourself, right? And again, you're going to translate that trauma over to the next relationship. And you don't really need that. That's why it's so crucial to move slow so you learn fast. And conversations with people. And again, social media is great because you get an aspect of different personalities and perspectives, angles and viewpoints. But the problem with that, and I'm just as guilty as this shit, you'll see something you don't like and you immediately jump in the comment section to give your opinion. Honestly, bro, it seems 50% of the people who say some of the sideways shit online, they're either trolls or bots just to get the engagement of that post, right? Because we live in a world where a lot of the information on how we respond and what we respond to, all that information is being tracked, bro. All that information is keeping tally. So if we continue to respond to certain things, it's kind of simple for this information to be stored and reused in some other way, right? I see it all the time. Like, why do people still respond to folks who say these outlandish things? Again, I'm just as guilty myself because I get caught up in it. But more so now, I'll catch myself and then delete my response. And I'll either block that person or just swipe, just move past, just keep scrolling. But there's a lot of people out there who say things on purpose. They say it intentionally just to get a response. People find pleasure in your misery. You have to understand that. There's some people who find pleasure in misery. There's some people who sought out throughout their day to get blocked. Because in their mind, being blocked by people proves they're right. It's very unique and different. But that's the world that we're currently in right now in this digital era. The more people I piss off, the more I'm standing on what I'm saying because they don't want to hear the truth. It's interesting. So you have to know who you're dealing with, man. But again, know who you are. Right? And I'm the kind of individual, talking about me, myself, I will have conversations with people who I don't necessarily agree things with, not to start a fight, not to create an argument, but to have a discussion. And I've said this plenty of times with people. What is it that you're seeing that I'm missing that makes you believe this? And I have to reiterate a couple times, look, man, I'm not bashing. I'm not trying to start anything. This is not a setup. I'm literally curious. What is it that you see that I'm missing that has you believing what you believe in? And it will get into a conversation. Most people, you have to understand, believe the source of information that they're getting is valid. People trust their sources. And I try to explain to folks, and at least this is the mindset that I have, all because the shit is saying what I want to hear doesn't mean it's right. It just means it's saying what I want to hear. It's saying what I want to believe. It's speaking what I love hearing. That doesn't make it right. It just means I agree with it. So I try to be very, very aware of any bias, uninformed decisions that I tend to make. This goes again in relationships, right? Is have a conversation with your partner. It's like, yo, like, why are you always accusing me of doing this, that, and the third? Like, what did I do? Have a discussion with them. If they can honestly break down why they're having these issues, why they're having these ideas, why they're having these beliefs, you can get down to the core of it. Again, you have to know, you have to read the room, right? Because there's some people out there, man, they just, if you take away their problems, then they have nothing to complain about. And a lot of people need shit to complain about because their life is just that miserable. And that's a whole nother conversation. A whole different conversation. But if you have the ability to at least know, okay, you're this type of person, right? So if you have a dude who, anytime he sees you talking to another man, he has to stand right there with you. Right? And that usually comes from a situation where, A, you always being at somebody else's woman, so you don't want to reap what you have sowed. There's a situation where he dated a woman who every time she talked to another man, she was getting her freak on behind his back. He grew up in an environment where no women were faithful. He was raised to believe that any man who approaches your woman is an op, and you need to go ahead and make sure that he sees your presence is felt. Some people believe anytime another man talks to my woman, he's going to take her from me. So there's all kinds of different mindsets out there, right? And not saying that's your responsibility to make sure that that person is reassured necessarily. But if you're not giving him any reasons to believe that, you really need to sit back and say, yo, okay, we need to have a discussion, because I'm looking at this like, I feel like I'm a prisoner in this relationship. Generally speaking, there's two biological genders out in the world. There's a 50% chance I'm going to talk to the opposite. So if I can't have any male friends, and usually when someone tells you can't be friends with the opposite sex, is usually, from my experience, that person is friends with the opposite sex. You just don't know about it, because they want to be the player, they don't want to be the played. Most times that's how it works. Not 100%, but a high percentage. It's cool to be the player, but it sucks to be the played. So I can go behind your back because I know what you're doing and I know what you're not doing. But if I don't know what you're doing, then that makes me uneasy. So I need to know where you at all times. I got to keep tabs on you and restrict you while I have the freedom. You need to know who you're dating with that. Okay? Fellas, you dating a woman who, if the waitress comes up and laughs at something you said about the menu, and your woman gives you like those evil piercing eyes, and she's quiet, her arms are folded, and all of a sudden she's not hungry, and you sense the attitude. Listen, I've never given you a reason to even believe that I was dealing with another woman. What's up? If you can't let your man talk to a woman in a friendly conversation, that's a red flag, fellas. Again, it's cool to be the player, but it sucks to be the played. I understand. But I'm going to tell you right now, anybody who ever grew up in a strict household, what did you do when you knew there's no eyes on you? You wild out a little bit, right? You bucked the system a little bit. You lived a little bit. Okay. These are things you can build on in the beginning of a relationship. You have a friendship, right? Let people know, listen, man, if I don't hit you back right away, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's not because I'm not interested. It's because I'm busy. It's because I was here and my phone was in another room. I am an individual who my cell phone is not constantly on my hip. I will go to the store and leave my phone at home. I will walk away from my device for hours. And that's probably the time you reach out to me, right? My social media is constantly logged in. So if you go into Messenger, it's probably going to show that I'm online. That doesn't mean I'm on Messenger. It just means that I'm logged in. I saw this video of a woman asked, I can't remember the name of the profile, but it goes a little bit like this. It's an event. You have these individuals on stage, and they're kind of counseling everybody in the crowd. And the moral of the question was, the woman says, is it okay if your man takes your best friend home, like she has something to drink? And majority of the responses from women were, oh hell no, oh hell no. There was one woman, I don't remember her name, but she says, if my friend is not able to drive home because she's had a little bit too much to drink, my husband is the type of man, he's going to protect people. So if she needs to go home, what would you want a man to do in a situation where there's somebody who's in need? He's going to take her home. That's my friend. He knows that's my friend. She knows that's my husband. Make sure she gets home safe. And she made the point of my husband, the kind of man who will open the door for anybody. He'll give anybody a ride. That's just who he is. He's protective like that. I wouldn't want him to be anything different than that. One of the gentlemen had said his woman wasn't home, and him, and her friend were supposed to meet up. She was running late. His wife was running late. His girlfriend was running late. And the friend showed up, but the wife wasn't there. His mindset was, well, I don't want to be at home with her and my woman not here. So just to eliminate any possibility of any ideas creeping, any seeds being planted, growing into these weeds of thoughts, we're going to go out and grab something to eat. Me and her, while the wife's not here. And oh man, for the most part, primarily, did the women have a problem with that? His point, which I understand because I myself would lean more towards this, I would much rather be someplace in a public setting where there's people around than to sit at home with my woman's homegirl till she gets there. It's just a bad form. None of the, it appeared like 70% of the women all had a problem with that. And he was like, what should I do? And one of the gentlemen, and I understand his point, his perspective completely 100%. His perspective was, I would rather get my girl's friend a hotel room and have her wait there for, and again, I get it. I understand it. You don't want any type of remnants of temptation. You don't want any type of resemblance of the possibility of something might come about from 100%. Here's my thing though. This is me. And the guy who said he went to lunch, he couldn't believe everyone was tripping off of it because his intentions were well. And I get it. If you are friends with someone you don't trust around your partner, why y'all friends? If you're that close of a friend to where, you know, your partner sees your friend as a brother or sees your friend as a sister, why is that such a touchy thing? Do you not trust your partner around your friend? Those are questions. I'm the kind of person, me, Decal, hi, host of the E.I.T.H.R podcast. If I'm dating someone and I care extremely about this person, I don't give a damn if, because I know, I believe, she's not going to make a move. I know, I believe, my friend would make a move. Now, if there is a sense going on with the two of them super acting awkwardly weird around each other, then it's like, why y'all like acting like weird together? What happened? Then you can, ask some questions, right? I don't know. I'm the kind of person, I want my woman to be friends with my friends. I'm not saying, hey, yo, I'm out of town for the week, bro. Can you crash at my place and my woman's not by herself? I'm not saying nothing like that. But if my homeboy is like a brother to my woman is like a sister to my homeboy, and that's my homeboy and that's my woman, why would I be uncomfortable with that? Unless I know one of them, if not both of them, are the type that would try something when I'm not around. That's a trust issue. Again, you gotta know the room. You have to know yourself. You have to know everyone that's involved, right? This is one of them situations where you got to be very, very careful about who you involve yourself with. These are the kind of conversations you have with people. These are the kind of conversations that should happen in relationships. These are the kind of situations that you might want to put yourself in to see how people handle themselves. I know it might seem like a manipulative game. To some perspective, it may be. Because you want to, lack of a better term, test people. Not even directly, just see how they handle themselves in situations. Because dating is a test, if you really break it down, right? And if you have a conversation with somebody about something that took place that you felt a certain type of way, and that particular individual out-talked you, they filibuster everything you had to say, they gave a response, but not the response to the question that you were asking them. These are mental notes you need to take down and keep in the back of your mind. Most people are very uncomfortable with asking these questions, and I want to say from experience, it's because they have these questions about themselves they have yet to answer. I realize certain things and certain people is taboo, depending on where you're from, depending on how you were raised, depending on how you came up. It's taboo. I am the kind of person, I don't trust easily. But when I trust easily, I love extremely hard. So you got to get past a whole moat with this shark-infested beta fish with a drawbridge and concrete with vibranium and adamantium, diamond-crusted walls just to get through a brick door that's made out of oak wood. Then you'll see this glass heart, right? But there's random lasers that patrol the heart to protect it, and it sets off alarms. And so I know that about me. So I ask questions and scenarios and situations, and I pay attention. I know me. And because I know me, I attempt those same levels of respect to my partner when it comes to certain things. And I'm the kind of individual, I'd rather give you too much information than not enough information. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's a detriment. But that's who I am. Because I know me, I can also let you know in the beginning, this is who I am. I'm the kind of person that if we're having a conversation and you just wig out on certain topics, it's definitely a red flag, and it makes me hold my horses a little bit on moving forward, because wow, you got upset because I asked you this kind of question. Wow. Okay, you must be dealing with people who are usually Okay, all right. Well, now I understand. We'll circle back to that a little bit later. We'll have this conversation. We can address it, because if this is my personality, but that's something that triggers you, we need to know, okay, is it something about me that I'm like, okay, well, we can tune this back a little bit. It's not a change, it's an adjustment. Some people might be petty and say they're both the same thing, but, or are you the person that says, okay, well, this is something I need to work on, because if this is who you are, do I need thicker skin? Do you need to be careful with your words? Or is it a combination of both? Most time it's a combination of both, But other times, it could be one or the other. Most times it's people who need thicker skin. Because everyone is so triggered off of everything. And we live in a world where things are being just thrown in your face constantly all the time that you're just overwhelmed and exhausted from it. That you just have this fatigue of it. Again, the conversation. I don't have conversations with people to wait for my turn to talk. I have conversations with people to hear what they have to say so I can learn, right? 2 ears, 1 mouth. You can listen twice as good as you can talk. So that's how I communicate. It's taking time to learn that about myself. But I have learned, I want to learn who you are so that way you can learn who I am, because it's going to be a constant learning. Most relationships, friendships stop because people choose not to continue learning about that person. They believe they know everything they need to know about that person, and that's kind of where it stops. And that, my friend, is where the crippling of growth happens. Your growth is stunted, and you can't advance, and you plateau, and one person continues to ascend while your relationship descends, and nobody knows why. And it's usually because communication broke down, or somebody got really, really comfortable. We also live in a world where I'm going to tell you what I think you might want to hear, implied meaning, and adjust accordingly. And then later on, when you find out that they meant exactly what they said, you're now in a turmoil because, well, you didn't expect that. You thought they meant that. They really meant this. And now you went on this whole side quest in a relationship, not fully functioning with the understanding of, nah, this is it. Same thing with work, right? You might have people who work at a different pace, a different speed, a different mindset, people who come from a different way of working. Listen, there's not one way to get an answer. There's a preferred way. But again, the reason why I enjoy dealing with people who see things differently from me is because whenever there's circumstances that come about, I would like to have another method of, oh, okay, I can apply it this way. Okay, cool. Or, that doesn't apply in this situation. I'm always thriving to learn something different. The problem is some lessons you can't not learn because it is what it is. You already know. So stop touching the stove, and learning how different ways to build tolerance isn't the best way to go about learning. Sometimes you just need to know when the stove is hot, but you have to learn these lessons to know which lessons are learned, which lessons you can continue to learn, which lessons you need to avoid. Life is going to be different for everybody. There's not just one suitable answer for the question. More of us need to be a little bit more open with learning. There's multiple answers to a question. And again, learning how to apply them accordingly. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. E.I.T.H.R podcast, episode number 148. Again, man, thank you very much for tuning in to the podcast. Instagram, X, Threads. Follow me at the E.I.T.H.R, E.I.T.H.R. You can also, I'll call that person back. Perfect timing. GNSETV.com. Sign up as a free subscription. Appreciate you. We'll be back for the E.I.T.H.R podcast soon. It's your boy DK, and I'm out.